Hello fellow cinephiles, today I'm reviewing Yorgos Lanthimos' new film The Favourite. It stars Emma Stone, Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz and Nicholas Hoult. And it takes place in the early 1900s in England. And it looks at a frail Queen Anne who is occupying the throne. And her close friend Lady Sarah is governing the country in her stead. Everything is fine until the arrival of Abigail, played by Emma Stone, a young servant girl who is from aristocratic roots but has found herself falling on hard times due to the death of her father. She's trying to make sense of the world and trying to find a place once more. Abigail's charm endears her to Sarah, who takes her under her wing, trying to show her the ropes and trying to give her a leg up ultimately. And ultimately, Abigail finds a way to return to her aristocratic roots and become a lady once more like she was previous. And it becomes a bit of a cat and mouse game between Abigail and Lady Sarah. They're trying to outdo each other ultimately. It's a power struggle environment that they're in, that they find themselves in, trying to one-up each other, trying to outdo each other and trying to show the Queen who they are and get her on their side. It's really a battle of wills. It looks at how far these two, Sarah and Abigail, will go in order to accomplish their goals. What the things that they will sacrifice, and there isn't anything they will not do and anyone they will not crush or stand upon. And it's really about them trying to maneuver within this sort of world. Ultimately, the characters get sort of what they want, but not quite the way they expected, and it leads to a very interesting and confronting at times ending. I was really looking forward to this film, as I'm a big fan of Yorgos' films, as you've seen in my previous reviews. And this film I was looking forward to. I didn't know quite what to expect, but knowing that it was Yorgos, I knew it was going to be interesting and different. And that's definitely what this film is. It is ultimately his first studio film, and it is his most accessible film. Told a linear, simple story, and told with his flair and his creativity. And it's quite an interesting film to watch. It's the first time he hasn't written and directed. So that sort of adds a bit of difference to it, but it just has his flair throughout the whole film and his camera work and his ideas and his themes within it. The strongest themes in this are power and control, and ultimately that's what these particular characters want. Do very despicable things throughout the film, and it questions you, and it makes you question who they are, but they change and chop throughout it, which is kind of interesting in a realistic way of a human being, I guess. Characters like Lady Sarah, you're sort of not sure about to begin with, you don't really know if you ultimately like her, but as the film goes on, you start to warm to her in a different way than you usually would to a character like this. The character Emma Stone plays, Abigail, is another character you sort of like to begin with, and then she goes in a different direction. There's a big arc for her as well. And it's interesting to see the way human beings chop and change who they are in order to accomplish what they want. This film is absolutely beautiful, gorgeously shot, is of the period. The art design is fantastic. The clothing of that period is amazing. Some of the dresses are really powerful and striking. And there's an outfit that Rachel Weisz's character wears when she's shooting, which is pants and an interesting sort of jacket. And she's quite fascinating to look at, and I'm really impressed with the way this film looks and feels. You get swept up in it ultimately and taken back to the early 1800s in England and what it was like, and the aristocratic sort of stuff that was happening, and the arrogance of people and the decadence of everything. And I just thought this was absolutely gorgeously shot. The music's really fantastic, and as you've seen probably from my other previous reviews, I don't talk a lot about music, but the music was really fantastic in this film and well used. And I think he's slowly starting to use some really interesting music, especially with this and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. There was something about the music he used in that was quite extraordinary and big, and a real flair, I guess, that gave certain scenes an interesting feel. Much like Scorsese and Tarantino, the use of music, he does it completely different. You mightn't really think fits within this scene, but by putting it in there, it gives it such a grand experience, I guess. It sort of makes you feel and think about things, and it gives an importance to that scene or a suspenseful feeling to that scene in such a great way. And it's very loud and overpowering music, but it really works for what they're going for. All the acting is brilliant. Everybody does a fantastic job. Emma Stone's really great and has a really spot-on English accent and has a real arc with her character. Starts as sort of a humbled servant character, but slowly becomes much more. And you see how far she's willing to push herself in order to become part of that world once again, and the ruthlessness she has. And there's nothing and no one who will get in her way of her accomplishing her goals, and it's quite powerful to watch her. Rachel Weisz does a fantastic job. She's an actress I've really liked for a long time. She's fantastic here and does a really fantastic job in this character, and has an arc herself, starting with trying to stay in control and slowly losing grips on that throughout the film, and what she's ultimately pushed to doing in order to survive is quite extraordinary. I think Olivia Colman's really steals the show. Her portrayal of Queen Anne is quite well done, and she's a very interesting actress, has real acting chops here, and she's able to flourish and shine within this film. And Queen Anne's such a character that is pushed around and taken advantage of throughout the film, but she has a strong arc too as well. She starts off that way, and then slowly but surely she becomes stronger and stronger, and she's able to stand on her own 2 feet and make her own decisions without being told what she should and shouldn't think and what she should and shouldn't do. She does a fantastic job here and is really brilliant. Queen Anne's sort of a damaged character, and the way Coleman plays is absolutely fantastic. I think Nicholas Hoult does a really great job in here, one of the best performances I've seen from him in a while. And he's just really manipulative and great, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and he does such a great job here. Even though Yorgos didn't write this, it still has the feel of his, the touch of his. There's fisheye camera lens shots, which really lend to the period and the time, and it creates interesting scenery. And his use of slow motion, which he always does, is really well captured and used. It really feels like Kubrick's film Barry Lyndon, in the way it's shot and put together, the costumes, the period, what's going on, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that really makes it a well-made film. It's beautifully shot, some great sequences, some great shots, the things that are happening in it, the art direction, like I said, within the castles and the places that people are living, the exteriors, what the forest looks like, and particular shots that are used. There's a lot of blending shots together to create a unique look and feel for the film. Especially the ending, like this scene that takes place where ultimately Queen Anne's taking back control over Abigail, and what she does in that sequence, and how they blur their faces and images together, as well as all these rabbits and what that represents, is quite powerful and really, really well done. And he does that throughout the film, and I think his camera work is absolutely spectacular, and it just looks gorgeous. Definitely one of the best looking films of this year. And I don't doubt that this film will be nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Cinematographer, and probably Best Costume Design as well. Like I said, his themes that he deals with, his control, what people are pushed to do in order to get that control, and trying to keep control, and trying to have the power within the film. That's really what it looks at. And how Queen Anne is treated. She's treated really poorly throughout the film. She's a character you sympathise with, because she's taken advantage of by these 2 women, as well as the other people within that film. The only little niggling criticism I have, just a tiny thing, would be I just felt it went on a bit too long towards the end, and they could have finished it up quicker than they did, or they could have ended on a spot that I thought would have worked just as well as the ending. But I could see why they stretched it out, and the last scene is very important within the film and is very well done, so I can see why they did that. So it's just a little tiny thing. I just think it went on just a little bit too long than it should have, but it still accomplished the goal, and the end scene is worth waiting around for the rest of the film, ultimately. This film is definitely not what you think, and don't go in thinking it's just going to be comical period piece, which it is, but it's much more than that. There's a lot of crudeness within the film, there's violence, but everything, all the crudeness and violence and all the other things within the film work towards a story. So they're not out of place, they all have serve a purpose. But just don't go in expecting it to be a simple, basic film, because it's very different to what you might expect it to be. And it's not going to be for everyone. Final verdict. Look, if you like something that's a bit different, if you like an entertaining and uniquely told story, if you're a fan of Yorgos's previous films, Dogtooth Lobster or Killing of a Sacred Deer, you may enjoy this as well. I don't know if it's going to be for everyone, but if you're craving something different with all the blockbusters and sequels and remakes and prequels and all these other things that are coming out, this is a kind of refreshing film. And it's apparently a film that was been around for a number of years, and it took a long time to get it made. And I think Yorgos was a perfect fit for this film, and can see why this film floated around for quite some time. And it also looks at 3 very strong women. and what they're able to do and accomplish within themselves and the world and environment they live upon, which I think is fantastic. I'm going to give The Favourite 4.5 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. It was different, unique, and Yorgos has really outdone himself, and I would go as far as to say this is my favourite film by him, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do next. I'm a big fan of his now, and I'll definitely watch every film that he makes from now on. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.